Hey everybody, my name is Donna and I'm an alcoholic. I have been through the process with the help of a big buck step study sponsor, a loving God. I have completed my amends and I do this work to the best of my ability on a daily, minute by minute basis. And thank you, Joe, for asking me to come today. I love seeing you and I like coming to this meeting. It's always good to be at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and had an awesome ride down here with my friend Michelle from our area, and so it's like an hour, so I'm like banking in all kinds of AA today, and I love that. I just love that. And so I have experience with step 6 and 7, but I feel like I first need to say that I always, it's kind of sad to me that 6 and 7 have like such little space. Like not only do they have to share a meeting, but they only have a paragraph each. And even like to the wives, to the employees, and the family afterwards get a whole chapter. It just doesn't seem fair. And it's a power pack. Those are power pack steps. And I have character defects. And what happened with me is it's so quick to read this and then like go right into talking, but I'll try. I still get a little nervous when I'm up here. I still get a little afraid when I sit up here and speak, and I feel like it's easier for me to speak if I tell you that first, because I am a little anxious, and I'm wearing my Fitbit, and I'm not going to look at my heart rate right now, but I want to, because then it validates my fear. You know what I mean? Like, yes, look at your heart rate. It's really high. You are afraid. And that's the story of my life. Validate my fear. Like, right? Like, and that taps into my character defects, because for me, it's really hard for me to talk about these steps without talking an awful lot about fear, because all of my character defects have stemmed from some form of fear. So you'll kind of hear me refer often to my fear. And that's just the way it's shook out for me. So, I always kind of knew, I'm not going to do like a whole backlog on this. You'll know I'm an alcoholic by the time I'm done. And I'm really looking forward to hearing other people share on these steps too. So I'm not going to go backwards a whole lot, but it's really hard to talk about 6 and 7 without talking about 4 and 5. So, I learned from my inventory, just like what my character defects looked like, and it all kind of boils down to I'm afraid that I'm not going to be okay, and fill in the blank. So I'm afraid that I'm not going to be okay, which really means today, what I know what that means is that I'm afraid that God doesn't have my back. I'm not going to be okay in this situation. And this situation could be anything, and it could be nothing. It could be real or imagined, like my fears, right? So, when I'm challenged, like when I'm challenged in any way, which for me means I'm afraid, I typically first feel it physically. I get a pit at the top of my stomach. My tongue might feel fat. It will feel like an anxiety. And when I physically feel that, my brain starts to react. And when my brain starts to react, it basically starts to tell me things. It doesn't even tell me things. I tell you things. I lie. I will tell you only what I want you to know. I will omit the truth. I'll tell a story around the situations to avoid true communication, because I'm afraid of conflict and confrontation. I'm afraid of your opinion of me, of being ridiculed, of being abandoned, of not being loved, not being liked, and so on. And again, what that really means for me is that I'm afraid in this case, in this situation, that God doesn't have my back and that I'm not going to be okay. So when I react, I don't typically, when I react to my world, I generally don't get mad. I get hurt feelings. So my character defects always kind of fall under, you hurt my feelings, and now I'm going to react this way or that way. And if I'm not going to outwardly react, I do a lot of inward reactions. So sometimes to the outside, it doesn't look like there's anything going on at all. But inside, there's a whole big deal going on. And one of the things I learned from doing my inventory and then working the later steps is that my character defects have a life form all of their own. And And I will treat myself worse than I will treat anybody else. Like and what that kind of looks like for me is that something goes on. Okay, I'll give maybe this is an example. What's happening in my world today? So, okay, so what's happening in my world today? This is a family disease. This is a family disease. In my case, it definitely is. It hasn't missed a branch of my family tree for generations before me and after me. So my prayer is that the generation that it skips is my grandsons. But like my son is a heroin addict. My mom is an alcoholic. Her parents were alcoholics. My father's an alcoholic. Multiple aunts, uncles, cousins, my nephews, my nieces. My family tree is basically marinating in alcohol, drugs and alcohol. And I feel it's really important to point out that, as an alcoholic, as alcoholics or as an alcoholic, it's become really, really clear to me just how insidious and powerful this disease is. This disease is so powerful that if you love me, you now need a program of recovery. You know what I mean? And that's why they have Al-Anon, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's the truth. We're so sick that we make the people who love us so sick that they need to recover. Now they need a 12-step program. So I'm not here by mistake. And so my son's a heroin addict, so that's difficult, right? Obviously. My son's 30 years old. He's been in and out for 10 years or longer. He's lost everything, been brought back 10 times now, has overdosed and been brought back. I recently counted how many institutions, hospitals, rehabs, programs that I could remember that he'd been in, and it was over 130. And he's been in 3 or 4 since then. That was October or November, I think I did the count. Because this is somebody who wants to want it, and I've never known anybody to get sober as many times as he has and not been able to keep it, or die. So those prayers for the sick and suffering are really important, they're very, very important. And so anyways, he's in Florida right now, and he went to some program in Florida, and so he was in a rehab, and then he went from a rehab back out, and then back to the rehab, and then back out, and then back to the rehab, and then was on Suboxone, and then back to the rehab to get off the Suboxone, and is now living in a sober house. In the sober house for 1 week, has high anxiety, ends up in a psych ward for a week, back at the rehab. That's since November. It's only early January. That's a snapshot. That's a snapshot of what this is like. And so with that comes a lot of character defects, to say the least. So the old me, right, and I have a lot of experience being the old me. And still have some of that sometimes today, because that's what's familiar. So recently he's wanting to come back home, like closer to New Hampshire, and so that's a discussion. And he wants me to do the work for him. Now whether you have someone in your life who's an alcoholic or an addict or not, or you just love someone and you have any codependent relationships or people that you just feel like you can save, or you sponsor people, or you work with people, or you're like a human in this world, you probably have a relationship like this. So what happens with me is that when somebody wants something, I want to do it. When somebody's struggling, I want to make it go away. When somebody's suffering, I want to lessen the suffering. When somebody's in pain, I want to, lessen the pain. When they need help, I want to help. When I think there's a way out, I want to show it, give it, do it. And you can't do that all the time. Like, that's not healthy behavior, right? So, and how do I know that's not healthy behavior? I have like multiple notebooks that have shown me how unhealthy this is and how toxic it is to every relationship I have. So a situation comes up. He wants to move closer to home. I'd love that. I'd love for him to move closer to home. But and And the old me would have set the ball in motion. I would have started making phone calls, looking for a place for him to live, finding out how much airfare is, try to find a new sober experience for him. I could go on with the list of things I would be doing. I would be like, looking on Craigslist for furniture for this apartment that he's supposedly going to move into. Okay, it goes on and on and on and on and on. Okay, that was before. Now, the conversation is more like this. Shane, I'd love to have you move closer to home. I think that's a great idea, but you need to do the work around that for yourself. So that, of course, is an uncomfortable conversation. That's not what my son wants to hear. Well, Mom, you're supposed to help me. You're my mother. Aren't you going to help me? Don't forget he's a heroin addict, so he would sell his soul to the devil to get what he wants, and he'd sell my soul too. And so what do I do? It's real, like hard and real simple. I tell the truth. I tell the truth. You do the work and I'll help, you do the footwork and I'll help you when you've done some work around this. I'm not going to spend hours and weeks, basically helping you get here when you could meet a girl tomorrow and change your mind and decide Florida's the best thing in the world, or you relapse. And now the conflict is, I'm fighting every maternal instinct I have, because he's on the other end of the phone crying, or convincing me why that's not what I should do and I should do what he wants me to do, and that would taps into every single character defect I have. Honestly, it taps into every single one of them. And so telling the truth, telling it now, being gentle when I say it, sticking to my boundaries. Being gentle with myself when I don't do what somebody else wants me to do is a big thing too, because sometimes when I don't do that, I can be like my own bully. Like, why am I doing this? Like, what if he uses again and he dies? That's always at the back of my mind. What if he commits suicide because he's so sad? Back of my mind. This will be my fault. Back of my mind. God probably doesn't have it this time. I should take control of it. It's not going to be okay. I'm not going to be okay. He's not going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. So knowing what I know about myself has given me like the tools to do to do things differently. And if I didn't have any self-knowledge on the way my brain processes information and the way I react to fear, I would be very reactive in this situation. And this is like obviously a heavy situation, but it wouldn't really matter. It could be a really light situation, And these are the things that make me extremely dishonest. Not only would I be acting out in the ways of doing things that aren't healthy for me in regards to my relationship with my son, but I'd also be withholding information from my husband. And that's a really nice way of saying I'd be lying. Spewing lies. Telling him only what I want him to know because I'd be afraid of how he'd feel about my son, because obviously that can be dicey too. Like, I would be not being financially savvy. I'd be spending money maybe I don't have. I'd be not paying bills I should pay in order to make this thing happen. I would be acting out, and I'd be severely acting in, and then I'd have my brain, the voice in my head, which sometimes is very much like a drill sergeant, saying what are you doing this for again? Haven't you already done this before? It didn't work out for you last time. What's wrong with you? What kind of program are you working? You're not very honest. Have you telling anybody about this? How many shades of truth did you just tell? And on and on and on and on. And so I don't do, I try really hard not to do that. And I can't say I never, revert to my old behaviors, because sometimes I'm afraid, and that's my first go-to. My first go-to is to either ignore, pretend, and deny a situation exists, fix it so no one else has to know that it happened, which again falls under ignore, pretend, deny. If I fix it, no one else knows about it, it really didn't happen, right? Because that's what I tell myself. And, and then the other thing that's happened, and this happened around the same subject. Last year, something came up, and I was thinking, my character defects are super sneaky, too, because it's kind of like going into your closet and you have a wardrobe, right? And so basically, my character defects are all lined up, and I didn't pick up ignore, pretend, deny at all. But I was thinking I was handling a situation really well, and I was calling it minding my own business, which basically what I was doing is ignore, pretending, and denying, because it put on a new mask called I was minding my own business. And I was like at a meeting on 6 and 7 we have a meeting in Brookline, New Hampshire on Wednesday nights. It's a big book step study meeting, but not anybody can talk. So it's almost everybody, whatever. It's a big book meeting. So anyways, and I'm talking about how I think I'm really doing good with my situation with ignore, pretend, and deny, because if you're in my life, you hear me talk about it all the time, I'm doing that thing. And I've been minding my own business, and then I realized, I've been doing absolutely nothing. I'm not telling the truth. I just wasn't telling the truth, calling it minding my own business. And because I struggle with communication, of course, because I'm afraid of conflict and confrontation. And if I say something and you don't like it or you disagree, what does that mean about me? Because in the end, it's all about me, right? So what I've learned is that my character defects are super, super sneaky, and they will mask themselves and call themselves something different all of the time. So I have to be really, 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 really vigilant. I have a very colorful life, a very blessed life. I have a really good life. There are parts of my life that are sad, obviously. But I live a rockin' world. My world rocks. I can't even tell you. I live a really great world, but it doesn't mean I'm not sad about certain aspects of it. That's the truth. That's me not pretending, ignoring, and denying. I can have really difficult things going on in my world and still just be okay. Because what I know most of the time is that I am okay because God does have my back. He always has my back. And so if I'm showing up and I'm being I loved our little reading. So it talks in here about, it's so alcoholic. I really love this. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all these things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can he now? I like how it says now. You can tell an alcoholic wrote this now. Can he now take them all, everyone? If we still cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to be willing. It's pretty basic. You have something you're hanging on to, you ask God. You just ask God to help us be willing. And then it says, when you're ready, you say something like this. It doesn't have to be this. It can be like this. My 7-step prayer sometimes is exactly this. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's different. Because my character defects, it really kind of depends on what's risen to the surface. Because when I first came out of my inventory, the things that had risen to the surface were ignore, pretend, deny, people pleasing. It was my big deal all the time. But what's happened since then is because I've had a chance and an opportunity and time to chip away at those, it's cleared the way for other character defects to come to the surface for me to work on. New levels of honesty. Just really being present and being truthful in real time. In real time. Not waiting 20 years to tell someone that I get car sick on back roads. Not telling, not saying I don't like something that I have never mentioned before in the past. Not being real about the way I feel about a situation or an obligation, even a responsibility. It's about clearly just telling the truth about where I'm at. And that doesn't mean I run around spewing my opinions about things at all. That's not what that's about. It's about telling my truth in real time, And I needed a lot of practice in that because I'd spent my whole life telling you only what I thought you wanted to hear and lying to you and myself all of the time as a result of that, my whole life from early childhood. So when it says in here, I pray that you now, again, that word now, remove from me every single defect of character which stands in my way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. So what that means is anything that blocks me from you and God. That's what it is. So I can be a people pleaser, but I'm also I'm a business owner, right? I need to please people to be successful, And I used to get really confused about this. If I'm a people pleaser and I'm trying to be honest, it means how am I supposed to keep my business? You know what I mean? Basically, if you're in any form of customer satisfaction at all and you're trying to tell the truth, you have to be really careful, right? So I used to think how am I supposed to show up and be me? And when I did this work, I was in customer satisfaction and I got really scared. I'm going to go to work and tell these customers that their parts aren't their parts aren't coming in because somebody in the warehouse made a mistake and this and that. No, it just means I go to work, I do my job to comfort and take care of this customer. I don't have to divulge all the information. It doesn't make me a liar. It makes me a responsible person for my company, and I got confused by that. But what people pleasing means for me today, or not people pleasing, means I don't say yes when I mean no. I don't have to say yes to everything. I can say, let me get back to you. That's new. Communication like that is new. Or just simply saying, that's not going to work out for me, but maybe next time. And I used to say yes all the time. I said yes to everything, all of the time. Canceled vacations to help you roof your house, literally. Canceled a vacation to help someone roof their house, and when they went on vacation, I was hurt. And when they didn't help me roof my house, I was really hurt. And, because I was a scorekeeper, right? I was a scorekeeper, and I thought, well, I'm just a nice person. Well, I'm not saying I'm not a nice person, but I was a scorekeeper. I was a nice person, and if I was nice to you, I expected you to be nice to me, and if you weren't, my feelings were hurt, and you ended up in my inventory. But it was basically me not having a voice, not saying no, not knowing how to communicate. I had no communication skills whatsoever. I didn't know who I was, and I bumped around the world trying to be who I thought you wanted me to be. And, so today I do, I love this ideal. It talks about at the end of the sex inventory, it says in here, we subjected each relationship to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideals and help us live up to them. So what I've done, which has helped me so much in regards to my character defects and how I am present in the lives of the people I'm closest to, is I wrote out my ideal. What does my ideal mother-child relationship look like? What does my ideal mother-daughter relationship look like? Because I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a meme, I'm a grandmother, I'm a sister, I'm a sponsor. What's my ideal relationship look like? Am I being my ideal? Not are they doing what I want them to do, or not are they being my ideal. Am I being my ideal? Do I show up, am I authentic in these relationships? Do I have integrity? Am I honest? Do I have joy? Am I happy? Am I present? Am I present in these relationships? And if I'm doing those, that's a handful of them, but if I'm doing those handful of things, there's way less likely opportunity for me to be blocked by my character defects, because I'm being truthful and I'm being authentic. If I'm being truthful and authentic and present, I'm in. I'm really in. My character defects, they're inside of me too, but they're not showing up. They're not blocking me because I'm able to be my ideal. When I fall short of my ideal, my character defects flood in, and it hurts my relationship with you and others, because then I am dishonest, and that sets the ball rolling. It just does. And with my example I gave, this week, it meant that not everything went really wonderful at home this week, because I ended up helping my son when my son got out of the hospital this week. He needed some of his psych meds filled because he went in to get stable. So when he got out, he needed to have some medication, so I helped pay for them. And I don't do a lot of helping pay for, because it's a form of enabling, and you have to be very careful. But I did do that. I did pay the copay, which ended up being $4. And but it still caused a rift at home, because my husband's like, "What are you doing? You're doing that thing again. You're going to jump in. You're going to make his world okay. Why are you doing that? Don't you know? Haven't you been hurt enough? Blah, 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 blah." Oh, that's not nice. He didn't actually say blah, 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 blah. That's just what I heard. Wah, wah. So anyways, so what happened was, the old me would have silent scorned my husband, thought that he didn't understand, thought that he wasn't on my side, thought that he didn't have my back, thought that we weren't on the same page, thought that he's not really in this with me, thought that I care more than him. I would have reverted to a few different things. I would have become overwhelmed, oversensitive. I would have been very blocked. Let's leave it at that. Very, very, very blocked. And instead, I let my husband process the information the way he needs to process it, which meant we had a really quiet day, because he gets really quiet, because he needs to think. But when I present him with these things, I've usually already had processing time, and I have process. I have process. He doesn't. He's not an alcoholic, so he doesn't need it, right? But by the time I've brought some situation to him, because it comes through me first, I've prayed, I've written, I've talked to a sponsor, I've talked to someone in my network, I've prayed again, I prayed again, I prayed again, I prayed again, because now I'm showing up and I'm doing that thing that I've told you I'm really afraid of doing, communicate, right? And so it used to be that I used to like not tell the truth around this stuff all the time. I used to lie. Basically, I would do whatever I want, thinking I was making it better, but I was making a bigger mess all the time. And instead, I'm able to like pray, tell the truth, tell him what's going on, and then let him have his own feelings around it, and and able to say, I'm sorry that this information is upsetting. It's upsetting you. It upsets me too. Tell my truth about the way tell my truth around it, not ignore, not pretend, not deny, not people please, not lie, not self-seek, not manipulate, not control, not worry that he's going to stop loving me, liking me, that he's going to leave me because of this, not do all those things that block me, be present in this relationship with him, tell the truth, let him come to terms with it, and let it go, and that's exactly what happened. So it was like a really quiet last Saturday, and that's okay. Like, that's just okay. It's not what I wanted for Saturday, but it was still okay, and so I know, like, that's just like, it's an example. It's just an example of like how I was compared to how I am, and what character defects have done to me, and what doing this work has done for me, and like, I know God has my back, and I also know that if I'm good to myself, like if I'm doing this work and I'm good to myself and I'm really present, it's really such a better world. It's just so much easier to live in the world when I'm doing that, and not let the drill sergeant voice in my head that tells me all the negative things that feeds all my character defects. Like, I've learned to self-nourish and talk to myself the way I would, like, I was beating myself up one time, like, significantly about something, probably around this, because this is a big thing, and realized, like, I have a drill sergeant voice in my head that speaks to me rougher than I would ever speak to anybody ever, like, bullies me, like, I bully me, and then wonder why I feel beat up, right? And so, like, I started thinking along the terms of, like, would I talk to my grandson like this? I would never talk to my grandson or anybody the way I will talk to myself. That's been as a result of, like, kind of coming to terms with the way I react to my world, which taps into all of this, character defects. So, like, if you're doing this work and you're just checking it out, keep showing up, and it, or if you're not sure you want to do this work, just show up anyways. If you're doing this work and you're a little stuck, just muddle through it. It gets better. Even if life is colorful, it's so much easier if you have, like, a higher power and you have a way out. And I know no greater gift than knowing, like, who I am. Like, I really know who I am, why I am who I am, why I react to the world the way I do. It gives me an opportunity. This has given me an opportunity to just react differently. And as a result of that, there is not one relationship that hasn't benefited as a result of that. And I just can't imagine a better way. Thanks for hearing me. That's it.